Hello and welcome to the Hub MT YouTube channel podcast, which is brought to you by the European Digital Innovation Hub and powered by MDIA, the Malta Digital and Innovation Authority. Our guest speaker today is Donna Cardona, who is the founder of My Mama, a startup providing expert-led education, services and support to parents-to-be, parents and caregivers. This is going to be such a lovely experience interviewing you in this podcast and something I can really personally relate to. So it's a pleasure having you, Donna. Thank you for being with us today. Well, actually, this is a startup. My Mama is a startup company. So today we're going to have a hands-on experience from someone who actually has done this, and you can walk us through your journey. So obviously out of curiosity as well, something about you as an individual, as a parent, and how did My Mama come into play?
So thanks for the invitation, first of all. My Mama as a concept started out of my own experience into parenthood. I'm a mom of four, and as a first-time parent, I faced all the typical challenges and issues that many new parents face. So there's the sense of isolation, having to completely change your lifestyle and routine, trying to discover who this new person is and understanding their needs, as well as figuring out who you're becoming as well.
And she faced it all double because her first two children are actually twins. So she had obviously the double dose, not just the single thing at first glance. Were you always doing, what were you doing before actually this parenthood happened?
My background is in food technology. I spent 10 years in the food and beverage industry, in product development specifically.
Okay.
So it's quite different to what I
Totally.
do now. I've had to reskill completely to launch My Mama. And I surround myself with people with the right skills that I need, of course, to build the business.
Okay. So you became a parent of twins. So far, obviously, you had these two children and these ideas were coming to you from what you were experiencing. What were you imagining of building? What did you want to achieve when you had all the ideas in your head?
I really felt the lack of having a centralized platform where I could find all the support, all the correct information, because you do find information all over the internet from different entities, from different experts, but very often it's either conflicting information or outdated or very theoretical and not at all helping you figure out in practical terms of what you should be doing or trying out. So this is how the idea started forming in my mind. Myself going through these challenges and trying to form one jigsaw puzzle of the different services that I need and putting them all together. So when I had the concept in mind and it was, for me, I felt it was the right time to try it out. It was a now or never situation. I was meant to launch My Mama as a physical space, but this was 2020. Of course, COVID hit and I had to change the business plan completely. I had to reskill. I had to figure out how to build the website myself, something that I didn't know how to do. I had to figure out how to market my services, and so I sort of trained myself to do that as well. And we launched our services completely online at the end of 2020, at the height of the pandemic. And we started with a few services and courses online. Back then, it was pretty much unheard of that you use these services virtually. So I had to convince the professionals themselves as well. And we figured out how to convince an increasing
And the public
amount of clients
to use the service online.
Exactly. So it was quite a challenge. Eventually, we started testing some services face-to-face, in person, and now we have our own physical space, our My Mama Hub. where we deliver our in-person services and courses, combined with online options as well.
Okay.
So we offer both in-person services and courses at the hub, online or at the client's home as well.
I think obviously when you look at it, this was a positive. This came out of the pandemic, actually, when you see a plus side to something negative and the global pandemic that killed so many people. But at the end of the day, I think what we got through there is obviously the plus of us moving out of our comfort zones, discovering different services, being able to adapt to change and to get these services even from the comfort of our home. And I think this was a plus that came out from the COVID-19 pandemic. But obviously, would like to ask you, and juggling all this, even as a parent and all the challenges you face, many things, the starting off point would be the idea, but then it's the implementation and how do you go about it. So from a business perspective, not obviously from besides the services you offer, from a business perspective, how do you put an idea into then actually a company, a startup? What is the journey from what you're thinking in your head, from what you're dreaming about, to actually implementing that?
I think you have to be resourceful, as with everything in life, to move from having a dream to actually trying it out. You have to have courage, you have to measure your risk, you have to take a measured risk. So I would definitely say that applying for certain grants was a key factor in helping me make that step.
Okay.
And I think being resourceful, finding the right people, asking the right questions, having mentors on board as well who can guide you on how to avoid perhaps certain mistakes. I think that was all key to taking my mama from just a concept to a proper business.
What challenges have you faced along the way which were very crucial, and maybe how did you go through them as well?
As regards to challenges, I guess moving from an exclusively online business to a mix of in-person and online. Some would ask me, why didn't you remain an exclusively online business? Because the sector requires it, the nature of the business requires the relating to someone who is right in front of you. There's a lot of practical aspects to what we deliver as regards to courses. For example, we can't deliver a pediatric first aid course exclusively online. You have to practice. Same goes with the prenatal classes. There's a section of it where we show how to care for a baby, for example, and these experiences are better when done in person. There's breastfeeding support where you have to literally demonstrate the different techniques. So getting our own space was then the next hurdle. We got investors on board as well. And now we aim to keep this balance of in-person and online operations.
I would say it's really interesting in your case, because many a time you'd have businesses which have been running and then which were either forced to or felt the need to be online. Yours was actually the other way around. You were first and foremost online without planning to be online, so you had to start off online and then you moved into the in-person. So I think that's quite interesting in your case, how it all started. Would you say there are any negative aspects when it comes to growth as a company, as a startup?
Rather than negative aspects, I would say challenges. As you grow, all of a sudden you start being faced with different paths that you can take. You can't take them all because then you stray away too much from the original target, from what you originally aimed to do as a company. So you have to learn to say no a lot, I guess.
You need to choose wisely.
You need to choose wisely to remain loyal to your concept and to your aims.
They say you can't forget why you started this journey, and every journey obviously would have its beginning, and you always have to touch base with that so that you remain focused. I think that's very important, and as you're explaining it very well. Moving on to the business aspect when it comes to employees, can hiring too many employees maybe become a bit of financial mistake when it comes to tech startups? How would you look at hiring employees?
That's definitely true, not just for tech startups, I would say across the board. There's a saying that says, hire slow and fire fast. And as brutal as it sounds, it's totally correct. In our case, we have bootstrapped and depended on freelancers for as long as we could. And then just because it's part of our strategy, relying on freelancers as our backbone has sort of helped us grow fast without much risk. But then when it comes to full-timers, of course, you have to do it with a more planned approach. You have to see that you're financially able to make that move. And I guess you have to reassess often to see if what you assumed is making sense in real life then.
Again, talking about the business, how can you manage your risk while being prepared to scale at short notice if you have to be faced with a situation?
We're lucky with my mama because our team is made up mainly, and I would say 99% of it is made up of freelancers. So we can scale fast at short notice, but then there is the added risk of upsetting the existing team dynamics that you have to be really careful about. So there's no financial risk, for example, but then there's the risk that okay, have a team that's working really well together, that is in sync, that they're cooperating so much. And if you get in one person who upsets that dynamic, then you've had it. So I'm really, really careful, and I always get the team's opinion when I'm making an important decision, especially related to the growth of that team, to make sure that everyone is on board. Since I'm not as well a medical expert, I rely a lot on their opinion. I do go with gut feeling, but I balance it off with what the team is comfortable with as well.
Okay. It's interesting also to ask you about entrepreneurship. You're an entrepreneur yourself. When it comes to employment, especially locally, because it's obviously the market we touch, do you see an inclination that people would prefer to be self-employed and you have someone working as a freelancer other than being employed? Or there's a huge amount of people who still seek to be employed by other companies? And I'm asking this because obviously in my mind, I'm thinking of both the startups who would actually need to employ people because of the nature of their industry, their work. Or maybe it could be startups who would be able to rely on freelancers, on other self-employed people who would they obviously commission the work to. Like in your case, you work a lot with people who are self-employed.
I think it really depends a lot on your business model, but when it comes to startups, it really makes sense, especially initially, to rely on subcontracting, on relying on freelancers, just because, as we said, it keeps your risks down. You don't have a bunch of salaries that you need to pay
at the end of the month.
At the end of the month, and you're still uncertain of where this is all going. So I think the mentality is changing in favor of freelancing, in favor of using freelancers.
How would you say, and maybe give us some tips or tricks, I would say, in the business that would make a startup work, that would first and foremost kick you off the ground and would sustain you even in the long run? What would you say are the key factors?
As I mentioned, I have always relied quite a bit on mentors, and I remember very clearly that one of my first mentors had said it's very important to have a business plan, right? A business plan, however fantastic your idea might be, you have to write a business plan with detailed financial projections, and that I think is one of the key points that really helped me. um, understand better what this concept might lead to. As is as well, revising those projections as you go along. I think what was also key is investing in a financial advisor and an accountancy software, so that periodically, ideally every day, you understand where you stand financially. And that can really help you make decisions also in the short term, but especially in the long term.
Did you have this knowledge of how to write a business plan, what to do? Where did you resort to?
I wish I had that knowledge. In fact, I really hope that all this is taught as well as part of life skills, not just to students who take accounts and economics, for example, at school, but also students in general. No, I had to learn it as I went along, in reality, and rely a lot on asking friends and family.
Human resources.
Yes, being resourceful. It's always key.
And rely on the people. It's true. I think that's the beauty, first and foremost, of networking. And the people you know, when you have to reach out, okay, Donna might be able to help me in this. Let me see if she can, so I'll give you a call. I think that's the first and foremost the beauty of networking. And also be it that we're a small country, we reach out to each other, we have that, obviously, it's more available to us. And I think that's what I would consider as a plus, that somehow we have a nice community of people we can ask, we can talk to. Although there might be the element of secrecy, which would keep us away, because I'll be scared to share my ideas, that someone might steal my idea or do something different with it. But I think besides that, our networking can be very strong in this country. So the way we communicate with each other, the way we bring out the best in each other, that can work beautifully well.
Definitely. I've always encountered this availability to share knowledge and to get the support I needed, really.
Okay, so I would say that your children were had a huge impact in the idea for you, but on a personal level, what drives you, what motivates you, even in the days where you need more enforcement? What would you say plays the trick, all this in your personal life?
I think the perk as such of having a startup is that I get to be as creative and imaginative as I want to be. So I try to incorporate creativity and innovation as much as possible into what we do constantly, because that is what sets us apart, that we're creating something, that we're offering something different, that we're providing added value by being flexible in our services and courses, and having that leeway to express my creativity through what we do. I think that really gives me that will to get up in the morning and face the day, even though I know this is going to be a very challenging day at times. I'm always pumped to do something new and something exciting.
And I think motherhood does give you certain superpowers. So I think it's a great motivator then. Your final and concluding message to people watching, to our viewers, to someone who's even thinking about it. Look where you are today. I mean, 3 years ago you started all this. This happened in 2020. We're moving forward, and you look at yourself and you see, this is where I am today. And once it was an idea in my head. What would be your concluding message and obviously your advice to all those watching us?
I think it is to never give up, really, never say, oh, I wouldn't manage to do this. Especially, I think a lot of the potential entrepreneurs or people who would like to venture into entrepreneurship that I know sometimes are a bit worried that they don't have the right skills to do it. But everything is learned in reality. There's so many resources. There's so much support out there. You just need to seek it and be ready to accept it. Because sometimes that we're the ones who are in our own way of accepting that support. and learning the skills we need.
And take the risk. Sometimes I think we're scared also to take the risk. We many a time stay back from moving on forward with something we're thinking in our head, because obviously there's an element of risk. Do you consider yourself as a risk taker?
I do, but I always make sure that I take a calculated risk that I know I can recover from.
And tread with caution.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you.
Thanks,
and
Polly.
that was Donna Cardona, founder of My Mama.